this morning, this is Uncle Doug and Josie, my trusty canine companion, co-producers right here with me. And also we're joined today for our regular 9:30 in the morning visit by our Middle Fork Fire Complex Incident Command Team. We have Tony DeMasters and Mack McFarland here with us. Today is a transition day. We're transitioning between two teams on that 2-week rotation. So I'd like to start with Tony. Tony DeMasters is here with us this morning. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you come from and what you've been doing on the fire and how the fire's going, maybe.
Yeah, you bet. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Uncle Doug. Yeah, again, my name's Tony DeMasters, and I've been in fire since 1988. So this is about 35, 36 years. I've been running incident management teams for about 10 years. I'm with Great Basin Team 2 as their incident commander, and I used to work here on the Boise National Forest for a number of years. I was the local assistant fire management officer here out of Garden Valley for about a decade, and I was born and raised out of Emmett. So I'm pretty local, and I really understand and know the geography and the landmarks and the values, and just been part of this community, and so I can just really appreciate the surroundings and what everybody's going through.
Great. And what are we doing now on the fire?
Yeah, so we've made some real good progress since we had that last recent, I'll call it a rain event. It wasn't a season-ending event by any means. It was kind of just a slowing event. And right now the complex is it talks north to south. We're the complex is the Snag Fire, the Goat, and the Bulldog, as well as the Anderson Nelly. And so we're making great progress on all the fires collectively as a whole. We've had over our 2 weeks here, we've had anywhere from 900, and right now we're running about just a little over 480 personnel. So we've really fluctuated as far as our personnel and priorities, as far as where we're putting people and the accomplishments we're getting. Some of the stats on the fire is that on the Snag, or the Middle Fork Complex, again, which is the Bulldog and Nelly, we're running about 61,484 acres, and we're 90% completion. So it's looking really good. The Snag Fire way up north, we're looking at 33,431 acres, and we're also 90% completion with that. The Goat Fire, we're at 27,131. We're at 46%. And so the Goat Fire right now is the one we're paying close attention to. Fire season's not over. As well as just being local and the Boise National Forest, we've got some real dry conditions. The mornings are cooling off. I think we're right at freezing this morning, but again, daytime temperatures, and we're just in a real seasonable drying. And so the Goat Fire, we're paying close attention to. Our focus was over on the private and state lands over outside of Cascade on that side of the Goat. And then the fire perimeter is, up the Middle Fork here above Boiling Springs, and then it's back to the east up Bull Creek and up 16 to 1, and the very northeast tip of the Goat Fire is out there towards Monumental Creek and stuff. And so it's the fire out there on the very northeast. It's chewing away some of the 07 Cascade complex, and so it's just eating away through that old fire scar. The intensity is fairly low, but you take a look at a fire that's been on the landscape, for 13, 15 years, and there's a lot of snags. It's anywhere from a foot to waist deep of just downfall because of just the dead trees and things of that nature. And so we're taking a real close look as far as managing risk to our firefighters, and we're taking a look at it. There's a bridge structure out there, a bridge that we're paying close attention to. We've got some work done around that. So as the fire eats through, we'll pick up the fire where it's appropriate. We're always managing risk for our firefighters, and that's first and foremost, and it's paramount. Again, all the fires within the complex, we're still at full suppression, but again, we're doing some strategies of confine and contain with point-and-point zone protection. So we're really utilizing, the old fire scars, the Pioneer Fire, the Rattlesnake Fire, the old complex of 07s and stuff. And so Those I call them catcher's mitts, if you will. Those are new fires burn into old scars. They help us with containment, confinement, and helps us reduce that risk to our firefighters.
And maybe you could explain. You've used containment, full suppression, some terms, and no, it's not containment; it's completion.
Yeah, right. So full suppression means, full suppression is a term that we use that all fires are full suppression, but there's some small little details off of that if it's confinement, it's like we're using natural barriers, or we're using another fire scar, and so we're confining that edge of the fire to some of those natural features, if you will. And in containment is where we're going in with boots on the ground, and we're creating control lines. We're either a small hand line or a dozer line, and so that's kind of that containment. We're really locking down that piece of the fire, where we can access it safely, for our firefighters. And then point zone protection is much like we have a valley at risk. It could be, say, Boiling Springs cabin, or maybe one of our lookouts, or this bridge that's out towards Monumental and stuff. And so that's where our point protection is that we'll prep it with either saw lines and set up sprinklers, pumps, and we'll let the fire come to us on our terms and stuff. And so those values are protected in that point protection strategy. And then as the fire either comes to us or not, then as the fire goes away, and then we clean up that stuff in the aftermath.
Okay, and so the fire intensity has been fallen off or reduced from those early days in August, where we had those spectacular columns over. We didn't have to look on the map to find which fire was going, because we had one of each, I think.
Right. Yeah. So the residual smoke that folks are seeing within Garden Valley here is partly caused, from the inversion, as we typically get starting, this time of year with folks either, burning wood to keep warm, but the smoke we're seeing is coming from the goat fire, and that stuff that's burning, about a half mile, 3/4 of a mile up above Boiling Springs. On the west and on the east side of the Middle Fork drainage itself is proper, and then some of the stuff up Bull Creek up towards Monumental is also too where some of that smoke is coming from. Nighttime temperatures, diurnal winds, that'll bring smoke into the lower lying areas, as we see here in the valley in the morning hours.
Okay. So, but with the fire activity down, what's the attention or the effort or the emphasis of the fighters now? Right.
So really what our focus is, we're still paying very, very close attention to the goat. It still has some fire activity going on, but we're really focusing on suppression repair on all the fires, from the snag, a little bit of piece on the goat and bulldog, and out there on the Nelly fire. So suppression repair is where either hand line or dozer line has been put in, and we work off a suppression repair plan, and so that's just basically using excavators or hand crews or other mechanisms, to bring back the hand lines and bring back the dozer lines to its best natural state as we possibly can. Bringing in the dozer berms, covering it with brush, debris, creating access point or preventing access points, for off-road vehicles and stuff like that. So we'll put in logs and brush and stuff like that, so that our hand lines and our dozer lines, don't become, more access points for off-road use with ATVs, UTVs, and things of that nature. So we try to bring the landscape back to as natural as it was, when we first came in.
Yeah. So I know there's a complex of numbered Forest Service roads out there. Do we have new Forest Service roads?
No, by any means. We weren't creating any roads whatsoever. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So, the lines that the dozers are putting in are primarily on ridges. And again, as they rehab these, as they repair them, they're going to be putting in water bars, to help sediment management, if you will, as well as brush to help maintain some of the integrity, as well as bringing in logs and things of like that nature, and just try to turn it right back to the forest floor as best as possible.
And there's been questions ongoing about closed areas and when access might be restored. I know that's not your purview necessarily, but in general, do you have a sense?
Yeah, I do. It's thanks for the question, Mike or Doug. There is so the area closures it's in a process right now of approval, and we've been working on it diligently, and it's gone through the process, and we're looking for possibly a signature for reduced area closures, maybe by today, outside tomorrow, and stuff. And so that'll be published for folks to take a look at, because I know just being local, there's a big interest of firewood gathering, hunting, fishing. I know what Deadwood's all about, and just the infrastructure or the importance of the revenue to Boiling or Silver Creek Plunge, and some of those types of things. And so those are things that we're taking in consideration, for this new proposed area closure and reducing that footprint.
And I appreciate as a local. I mean, for example, Anderson Creek is an area I hike and walk, and there. You know the need to be concerned about firefighter safety, but I guess also safety of the civilian populations. That's what you call it.
Yeah, most certainly. Yeah, I mean, firefighter and public safety. That's what one of our first and foremost objective. Is making sure that we're covering all aspects of whether if it's firefighting itself or whether we have repair. Still got a lot of fire traffic out there on our main arteries, whether if it's up the Middle Fork, towards Silver Creek Plunge, or up to Boiling Springs, or using the triple nickel, the 555, or going over Clear Creek, over Horse Creek, the 582, into Bear Valley. And so, so all these things are really taken into consideration. I know Anderson Creek is a widely used hiking point, as well as Station Creek and some of these other access points that have been closed, and so a lot of those things were taken into consideration to try to reduce that footprint, to open these things back up to the locals that still enjoy getting out into the woods and those pieces of the ground.
But I think as locals, we'll want to be supportive of if there's going to be a lot of traffic and a lot of work going on in there, because there's still equipment and people moving back and forth to do the restoration. Yeah,
most certainly. That would be my ask, to the folks that are traveling these main corridors or any corridors, as the closure orders are reduced, and it does open up other access points. We still got a lot of firefighter apparatus. We still got a lot of firefighters that are moving around and stuff. And so just, drive accordingly, and just be aware that, there are still a lot of traffic out there, and we still want to keep everybody safe. But we also, too, understand that people want to get to the woods and enjoy the woods, for a variety of different reasons.
You still have spike camps at places like Silver Creek?
Good question. Silver Creek Plunge, that spike camp is pretty much removed, and we're just doing a bunch of cleanup and backhaul. And so some of our fire resources that are doing some of the repair and stuff, they're traveling back and forth daily. Deadwood Spike, we got a great spike camp out there, and we're doing some really solid, great work in and around that south end of Deadwood Reservoir, back to the east as well as the west. And so we're using the north end of Deadwood Reservoir as a spike camp, and we reduced that footprint considerably, supporting upwards of 250 personnel. It could be, I think, supporting maybe around 50 right now. And so we've reduced that footprint and got rid of, some clerical supply support, some, just infrastructure itself. And so we're constantly focusing on reducing that footprint.
And what's the forest going to look like as we return to it for firewood gathering and hunting?
Yeah, I guess, from a landscape perspective, you see the fire maps, on paper copy or online on your phone or whatever. And just because you see a fire perimeter doesn't mean it's all black. The fire collectively, there's some spots that burns extremely warm, extremely hot, but for the most part, it's real mosaic, and so it cleaned up the forest floor. It raised up some of the lower branches, things like that. And so the fire effects were generally, good overall. But there are some spots that, it burnt pretty hot, severe and stuff. And so it'll just take time for Mother Nature to heal itself. But collectively as a whole, it's real mosaic, and so it's not all black out there.
Right. Okay. And on behalf of the community, I'll thank you and your team, but you're come to the end of your 2 weeks and you're transitioning now. I wonder if you'd introduce your transition partner here.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. Thanks, Uncle Doug. Yeah. So, as Great Basin Team 2, as we're starting to time out, and today's a transition day where we're sharing information with the incoming team from Great Basin Team 6, and that's Mack McFarland, longtime incident management team member within the Great Basin, and he's got his team, and he's here ready to go to work, and we're excited to have another Great Basin team come right in behind us, another sister team, if you will. And so we know each other fairly well, and so the transition should be very seamless, and we're open to, that communication or sharing that information even when we're gone. And so, that's, I'll just kind of let Mack here kind of introduce himself, and we'll take it from there.
Great. Thank you, Mack.
Yeah, thanks, Tony, and great to be here, Uncle Doug. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I think we got it.
Great. Awesome. My name's Mack McFarland. I'm the incident commander with Great Basin Team 6, and we have been on the Boise National Forest a bunch in the last few years. Recently this summer, we were working on the flat fire just south of the Nellie fire out of Idaho City. So we were down there while the Nellie fire and the Wapiti fire were taking off and putting those big columns up, putting out the flat fire, and we were successful there, and in great part because of the cooperation that we have between the different Great Basin incident management teams and our ability to share personnel and resources back and forth. Our fire wasn't as aggressive down there on the flat fire. It was held up by the Pioneer burn scar from 2016, which I was on, and probably Tony was on, and most of us were on, and so we're not new to the Boise National Forest. We know the agency administrators, the forest supervisors, and have good working relationships with them and with the state and SITPA. So we're feeling pretty comfortable coming in, especially with all the great work that Incident Management Team 2 and 5 before them and a number of others have been here in Boise. And I guess I just recognize, Uncle Doug, that it's been a long summer of fire in this Garden Valley area, and we recognize that coming in. We want to continue to leverage the success that Tony and his team have had, and really focusing on making sure we're right-sizing the organization, being responsible with your tax dollars, as well as working with the forest to provide access to our public lands as much as possible.
Good, thank you. So will the firefighters have a different menu under this new administration?
A different menu for food?
Or we get more steak or what?
We're fortunate. We've got at least a couple different caterers set up on the incident, and they're high quality. They're going to stick around, so the firefighters will get consistency there. Yeah. If not from the incident management team transition, they'll at least have consistency in catering operation.
And just on behalf of KXGV LP and the community, I hope, I've been impressed with the information office efforts to keep us informed. I don't know if it's so much about exactly what's going on, although particularly early on that was important, but I think I've really appreciated your efforts to just teach us about fire and help us to be more confident about what's going on, and that we appreciate what's going on. So.
Yeah, I think our Tony and I share the same goal. We're not trying to hide anything from the public. We really want to be proactive in getting information out there. When the fires are big and moving around, things are very dynamic, and we don't always know the latest information. So we, out of abundance of caution, try to close areas off so that we can assure that there's nobody in harm's way out in front of these things. But as we ramp down and we start to talk about closure areas, and I think Tony did a great job of talking about the reasons that we still do have areas closed is because of the large equipment that's moving out there and moving around the fire's edge. We still have hazards out there from trees falling down across the roads, and then all of the different fire equipment. And the stuff that's out there now is heavy equipment. It's feller bunchers, and it's bulldozers and excavators that are moving around, and they just are not very nimble. You can't just pull off to the shoulder and let somebody by. So that's the big ask, I think, is that as we shrink the closures down, I know folks are curious to get in and look at the fire or get firewood or go to their favorite hunting camp. But we do still have a lot of equipment moving around out there, and we're just asking folks to give us a little bit of time and patience as we start to shrink these areas down.
Right. Yeah. The big thing is bringing everything back to normalcy. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're making some really good ground, and Mac spoke of it. Just a little more patience, and we're trying to reduce those closure areas. For the local interest, and so all those things. It's just bringing everything back full circle to that normalcy, and the community as a whole. I mean, it hasn't changed since I've been here, or I frequent and I visit and stuff. They're very this community is very blessed. Very thankful. Whether if it's verbally, one-on-one saying thanks, or just a simple conversation, to the signs, to the letters that comes from the school kids, and things like that. And so, that's what really kind of warms your heart from time to time, that, just a simple thank you and that grace and things like that really go a long way. And so, it's not only within Garden Valley, but, all the way up and down, all the way up and down Highway 17, into Loman, as well as bringing back the full circle back into Cascade. We still got a large spike camp sitting in Cascade that's supporting the northern fires, that circle around coming into Warm Lake and Stoley Meadows and the Warm Lake Highway. I mean, it's just, it brings in the whole, part of dirt, and so just a wide, big thanks to everyone that's supported us along the way.
Well, and we return that thanks to you, and appreciate your sensitivity is not quite the right word, but your willingness to interact with the community. I noted having some of the high school kids out to visit and think about careers as wildland firefighters and all the possibilities there. Smokey the Bear, and you had an engine for the homecoming parade. I mean, that says a lot about your attention to the community, and I think it means a lot. It sort of reciprocates our enthusiasm. Nobody likes fire, but we can all agree that we work well together and enjoy. That's not the right word, but because I'll be glad to see the backs of all you guys, but I'm sure grateful for the great work that you've done while you're here and while this threat has been with us.
Right. And also too, the local fire department, Paul, I mean, he's a couple years new, and so, Sheriff Turner, great support from his department and his office there. And so, it's just working really well with some of those entities, Idaho Department of Transportation, and, just, it takes a big team effort, collectively as a whole. And so everybody's got a piece of the puzzle, answers to some of our questions, and that's what we're here to help manage and get through all this together.
Maybe one of the things we could do at the end of all this is have a general discussion of the value and the benefit of these critical incident command system that allows all these people to come from lots of different agencies and come together and coordinate the efforts effectively.
Yeah, I mean, just between Tony and my team, I bet we represent 5 or 6 states in the western area, and I've got a gal on my team from North Carolina who came out to gain experience in the medical unit leader function. Lots of great experience in the public health service, but has never been on a wildland fire. So we're constantly bringing folks in and taking opportunities to train new people in how these large incidents are managed. So really important for us.
Yeah, I got folks from Louisiana, New Jersey, so all over the nation.
Well, last week I had a great interview with a man from Grand Canyon. Just really impressed.
Right. The other thing about incident management teams is it's all volunteer. I mean, they have daytime jobs, but it's not part of their daily duties as far as what their job truly is. And so people volunteer to be on incident management teams, to come together for the common good. And so it's a prideful thing to be a part of, and what makes that successful is the great thanks that we get from the communities that we serve.
All right, with that, we'll give you a big thank you, and we don't want to keep you away from the good work you're doing. Appreciate you being here with us.
Catching up with you another time, Uncle Doug. Well, Team 6 is here for our tour. Hopefully, just a couple weeks, and then maybe back closer to normal operations day to day here in Garden Valley.
We're getting close, right? All right. Thank you very much for being here with us this morning, Mac and Tony.
Thank you.
And we'll get back to music here with Nickel Creek.